Okay, church, we have a great blessing today. Let's welcome Jeff Kemp to the platform as he leads us.
Thank you, Jason. Awesome song. Let me open up in prayer. Would you join me, please? Father God, we thank you for the chance to worship you this morning and for the gifts of those who've ushered us into your presence. And mainly, it is Jesus Christ who humbled himself to come from heaven to earth, to be born a baby and live a humble man, a perfect life, and then voluntarily to go to the cross, a perfect sacrifice for our sins, since we couldn't fix anything on our own, only he could. And Lord, because of that, we know you, we can talk to you, you listen to us, you talk to us, you comfort us, you guide us, you use us. So may you use this morning. I want to say things that please you and that are in alignment with your word and point to Jesus Christ. And I pray that every one of us would hear through the Holy Spirit's interpretation exactly what you have for us. For you brought us here today for a purpose, your body. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so personality-wise, I'm ADD. I kind of bounce around. So before my sermon, kind of take some of you from too many different spots for you to track it. I'm going to give you organized people an outline of three basic things I'm going to say. Number one, marriage is really, really important. Number two, life has tough and troublesome things happen to us. I call them blitzes. But blitzes can be a catalyst for good if they drive us to God and they drive us to each other. And number three, we do not want to be consumers of relationships in life. We want to be investors. Jesus was an investor who gave up his life for us. Marriage is important. It matters to all of us, whether we're married or not yet. Trouble can be a catalyst for good in God's hands when we turn to each other. And we are to be investors, not consumers. So I was at a dentist appointment one day, and the dental hygienist, real nice gal named Rita, was cleaning my teeth, and the conversation we'd begun had become one way because I had my mouth open and she had her hands in it, and I was a captive audience. And Rita's a really neat gal. She had unfortunately gone through a divorce that she did not want at all, and she found herself in the spot that she didn't expect to be in as a single mom with a 10 or 11-year-old son. And she was talking to me about his baseball season and how it just started, but tragically he had broken his arm and had an arm in a cast and was going to miss the whole darn baseball season. And he was really upset, and she was trying to console him as a mom. And she was telling me what she told him. She said, you know, you didn't know what your batting average would be or whether you'd be a pitcher and have lots of strikeouts this season or how the team would do. You weren't sure especially what you would do. You just were committing to be the best teammate you could be, and you try hard. And now that your arm is in a cast and you can't play, you could still be on the team because you could still be a real encouragement to everyone else. And I think actually you should stick it out and not quit the team. Because if you do that, son, I'll see in you the characteristic I've seen many times of commitment. And that commitment will make you a great husband and a great daddy someday. Wow, I was sitting in the dental chair thinking this is one of the best marriage messages I've ever heard in my life. From a single mom in a divorce circumstance who didn't want to be there, who didn't feel disqualified from passing on the vision of marriage and Christ-like character to her son. So my message from Rita is that there is grace around family relationships and our past. This message isn't about the past, it's about the present and the future. And it isn't just for those of us who are married, it's for those of us who may someday be married. It's for those of us who were married, who know that our kids and our grandkids and the generations need this institution that God designed so beautifully to be alive and vibrant, especially in the church, because we are God's body to reach the world. I also got to kind of disclose that even though I've been in family ministry for 20 years since quitting football, I am not a perfect husband. So I'm sure none of you thought that, but just to make it clear, I'll tell a story from a few years ago. We were having dinner, which is really a goal that Stacy and I have had, to have as many family dinners together as we can, and to try to get the boys, we have 4 sons, to linger at the table more than just chow the food and fly away. It is a big chore and a big task to get that to happen. But we do okay. And this one night, we had a 15-year-old at the table. 2 of the older boys weren't there. And a 13-year-old, Keegan, the youngest, was sitting on the floor after dinner playing with Legos, but kind of still part of the dinner time conversation. And I was not being the world's best husband. I was sneaking in a peek at the newspaper and the sports page under the table while Stacy was talking to me. And she was telling me about this woman, Jeanette, and her beautiful brunette hair, and how her blue eyes stood out to her brunette hair. And she'd seen her at school today, and she's making these comments about this woman's beautiful eyes. I'm giving it the minimal male effort. It's kind of a grunt. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Meanwhile, I'm focused on the paper. Well, when Keegan hears Stacy say, "Oh, her eyes are so beautiful," he gives me about 5 seconds to seize the marital moment. And realizing I'm going to miss it, my 13-year-old says, "Dad, husband tip number 1, now would be a great time to say, 'Oh, honey, your eyes are so much more beautiful than hers.'" This coming from my 13-year-old. And my wife is gracious enough to at least realize that though my husband is still kind of a sluggo and hasn't quite gotten it, I'm raising the next generation of great husbands. So there's the future, there's the hope. As far as our story goes, I've been married for 29 years to Stacy. She is awesome. We have a very strong marriage, but it has not been easy, and it's not always been happy, and it's been through a lot of chapters where we needed God's help and a lot of coaching and support from others to get there. I've been on teams for all my life, but this is the most important team, and I was usually a good teammate, but not in marriage, because I was kind of like a consumer who expected just to show up and have marriage make me happy. Stacy has this lucky guy, this great guy, Jeff, so she'll make me happy all the time. My gosh, I went in so naively, so selfishly, so much like a consumer, right? Rather than an investor. Marriage exposes your selfishness. It takes work. It's not easy. It needs Jesus Christ. You need some skills. You need some coaching, some mentoring, and you'll need some help. My selfishness started showing up. And then my defensiveness, because I didn't want to feel like I was ever at fault. And we'd have these arguments over our personality differences. And I'd forget things or not do things the way she liked to have them done. And she'd say things to me, and I'd think she's criticizing me, and I'd get all defensive. And then I'd think, oh, this isn't easy. I don't like this. What's wrong? Well, not that those problems are completely gone, but we now can laugh at our differences and frustrations more than we used to be able to. And here are the keys that we have found for success. The number 1 key is Jesus Christ. Right around the time we were getting close to getting married, Stacy came to Christ and I came to Christ. And so we were committed to love him first and foremost and get enough love from him that we could love the other. But it certainly didn't come quick for me. Again, I went in as a consumer in my marriage. Number 2, commitment. You know what? Marriage is a covenant. It's not just a commitment. It's a covenant. It's God's lifetime union. And Jesus said, what God has joined, let no man break apart. If your marriage gets brutally tough and something really rotten happens, that does not mean that God can't use that tough thing as a catalyst to drive you to Christ, to drive your spouse to Christ, to turn you to prayer, to make you dig into the scriptures, to make you accountable and transparent to other friends and stop trying to pretend like you're a Joe Christian couple that looks good on the outside and dresses nice and drives a Lexus to church and then goes to drop the kids at all their cool sports. That's all image. Real life is our hearts. And we got to share with other people that it's not easy and we need one another. Commitment. We never uttered the D word. We never joked the D word. We never considered the D word. Divorce wasn't in our vocabulary. What that does is it forces you to work when your challenges come, rather than give yourself an excuse and become a consumer that says, this product isn't working out so well. I might consider another one someday. And the third thing that Stacy and I had going for us was teamwork. We were on a football team during our first year of marriage, and there was a team Bible study and a team chaplain and other young couples that we started off our married life with, and we were with them every week. And they did Bible studies on marriage and relationships. And then we went to conferences in the off-season to learn how to keep our marriages together, because pro athletes divorce at like a 75% rate. but not when they have Jesus Christ and his blueprints and other team members around them. We had great teamwork. We got great resources, great coaching, and pretty soon we started getting traded from the Rams to the Niners, and the Niners to the Seahawks. And you know what? I wasn't on the field as a starting quarterback nearly as often as I wanted, and I consoled myself with the frustration of that to realize that, you know what, God has a bigger purpose. We're meant to be on this team to have a ministry to these other players. And so Stacy always hosted the couples Bible study. We used to pop in DVD of Gary Smalley and play marriage discs and let other couples learn about marriage in our house. And that teamwork, others helping us and us, others helping others, all at the same time, ended up blessing our marriage. And it ushered us into this world and this job that I'm in today at Family Life. Really thankful. In Hebrews 13:4, the scripture says, "Let marriage be honored among all, and the marriage bed," which is God's way of explaining the sexual relationship of the marriage union, "and the marriage bed be kept pure." Honored means deeply esteemed, highly valued. Whether you're single, young, elderly, married or divorced, remarried, marriage matters to every single one of us because God says it matters, because it's the blueprint relationship of male and female joining to show his love for us like Christ loved the church. Secondly, it anchors the raising of children. And thirdly, it unites the picture of male and female, which is the fullness of God's image. Male, we're not all that much like God by ourselves. Female, not all that much like God all by ourselves. Put them together and you see more of God's image. See them expressing unconditional agape love, where they lay down their life for one another, where there's love and where there's respect, where there's meeting the other one's needs when they're not meeting yours, because you're 100% in, not 50-50. That paints a picture of Jesus Christ's love for us, agape. And guess what? Christianity would be far more attractive to a world out there that's trying a bunch of counterfeits if they saw marriage working. Now, I don't mean easy. I don't mean, polished and perfect. I mean authentic, transparent, working through their challenges, able to handle your differences, facing the struggles, but not making fun, not joking, not ignoring, not pretending, loving, honoring, cherishing. That's what God wanted for us, and it's possible for us. I got a couple questions for us. Number one, who modeled and was the best example to you of a vibrant, loving marriage? Who was that in your life? And is it possible that if you're married, or someday you're going to be married, you could be that for someone else? Through Christ, all things are possible. People need role models. Secondly, how much have you personally worked, if you're single, to make yourself the type of person who'd be a good husband or a good wife? We don't think about that much as singles, do we? We're thinking like consumers. Where can I find a beautiful girl that will marry me? Where can I find a great guy that'll meet all my dreams and needs? Really, God is saying, make yourself to be more like Jesus Christ, and then let him write your love story, and be ready to form a friendship that may eventually turn into a romance that can be a great marriage. But change yourself first. Same rule applies in marriage right now. Here's the third question. In your relationships, dating relationships or married if you're married, are you more of an investor or a consumer? And that's what this message is about. Now, in football, there's this thing that happens when the defense doesn't just send 4 big guys at a quarterback and the offense. They also send a couple linebackers and a free safety or a strong safety or maybe a corner. They send like 6 or 7 defensive players attacking the offense all at once. And they want to cause a fumble, a sack, an interception, a fumble. I must have said that already. Another fumble. Lots of fumbles. They want to cause mayhem, destruction, trouble. And sometimes it does that to the offense, but other times, because they've taken a risk and committed more people to attacking the offense, they're less well defended and more vulnerable in the secondary. And that's where some of the biggest touchdown plays happen during blitzes. Look for that in the Super Bowl. I've been through those situations where the worst play of the game quickly turned into a touchdown. And there's a scripture verse that talks about the blitz. I bet you didn't know that. Oh yeah, football is all throughout this word. This teaches us about everything in life. It takes a little stretch. It's Romans 5, 3-5. I'd urge you to write it down. Go home and study it this week in your quiet times. Study it, memorize it, see what you learn, and then see if there aren't some circumstances in your life that fit into this verse. And this verse will help you switch from being a consumer to an investor. Here's what it says. We do not just thank God and exalt in salvation and peace with God. Now, those are pretty good things. We don't just celebrate those things, but we also rejoice in our tribulation. You could put in the word trouble, difficulty, losses, negative surprises, trials, or blitzes. We rejoice in our blitzes because tribulation brings about perseverance. And that's perseverance toward your relationship with Jesus Christ. And perseverance brings about proven character. And what kind of character is that? Whose character is that? Voice? Answer? Whose character is proven character? Jesus Christ's character is the proven character that would be produced in us if we persevere in our trials. We don't just rejoice in peace with God, but in our tribulation, because tribulation brings about perseverance, and perseverance brings about proven character, and proven character brings about hope. And that's what the world's dying for. And hope doesn't disappoint because the love of God is poured out in our hearts through Jesus Christ. Now, isn't that interesting? We learn and we experience and we tap into more of God's love when circumstances are yucky in our life if we turn to God than we do when everything's going great, we're on vacation, we win the Super Bowl, we have no problems for 12 minutes or however long it lasts. We don't learn as much of God's love in those times as we do the trials. Blitzes will hit us in life. It's an imperfect world. Jesus said, in this life you will have trouble. If you get married, you will have trouble. There's a man and a woman in the equation. It's going to be troublesome. You're going to be opposite. You loved it when you were dating, now it's friction. Guess what? It's also fabulous teamwork if you can learn to lift up her strengths and not focus on her weaknesses, and she lift up your strengths and not focus on your weaknesses, and you focus on changing yourself to be more like Jesus rather than trying to get her to change in your very imperfect version of it, and she focused more on changing herself to be like Jesus than trying to get you to change. That doesn't work. That's a consumer model in marriage, and it doesn't work. Satan will convince you to try to change the other person. Now, you can bless that person with transparent, honest, loving, truthful statements to say, honey, I see something I'd like to help you grow in. And that is part of what marriage is. Tim Keller writes a great book called The Meaning of Marriage. We are loving iron, sharpening loving iron in our marriage. But it is far more by us becoming Christ-like than it is trying to tell them how they can do it themselves. A friend of mine had a blitz that was really bad. Think of this blitz in light of Romans 5, 3-5. His wife Janice and he had a really great marriage. He was a businessman, super successful, quite wealthy. And Janice came down with brain cancer, and in 4 months, she deteriorated and died. And he was in grief and missed his men's group. It was a secular men's business group that met every week. He missed it for a couple months. And when he came back to the group, it was his chance to share. Every guy shares once a year. And it was his chance to share. And so they let Dave share, and for the hour-long period, he said he cried for 70%, but he was able to speak for 30%. And here's what Dave said to the men. Janice was an awesome wife, and we had a very, very strong marriage. It wasn't perfect, but it was really awesome. And now that she's gone, I realize more than I ever did when she was alive what a treasure she was to me, how valuable she was to me, how much I loved her. And I almost wish that I'd done an even better job treasuring her and loving her when she was with me. And so I want to take this chance, you guys, to remind you that your wife, if you're married, is the greatest treasure you have. And you may not think your marriage is very good. It may be troubled right now. You may not think your wife is very nice or as much of a treasure at all. But I want to let you know that to the degree you treasure her, she will be a treasure. To the degree you value and love her, she will be a treasure. So I bought some stuff for you. I bought 50 roses, I bought 50 boxes of chocolates, and I bought 50 note cards. And I want to encourage you guys to write your wife a short note and let her know that you love her and appreciate her. And then go home immediately after this meeting and give it to her along with the chocolates and the flower. And if you do anything other than this, and you better come back next week with a pretty good excuse of what was more important than going home and telling your wife you love her. So he gets a letter a couple days later, and one of the guys tells him, Dave, I cannot thank you enough. When I got home, I was shocked. My wife had her bags packed to leave me. But the note softened her heart enough to say, yes, she would consider working on the relationship. I may need your help. Let's fast forward 15 years. That guy and his wife healed their relationship and made it stronger than it even was before it got in trouble. Because Dave took his blitz, turned to the memory of his love for his wife, and loved these men enough to courageously step in their lives and honor marriage and challenge them and give them a tool, a little note card, to go let their wife know that they love him. He changed a family legacy in that home and probably many others. I want to remind us all, we can change the legacies of others as well as our own if we turn to Christ and we honor marriage. That's what this church is about, building two-way bridges into the lives of the unchurched so they'd get to know Jesus in the fullness that he intends. Our marriage doesn't need to be perfect to be a lighthouse, but it does need to be moving toward Jesus. As a single person, we don't have to be desperate to get married and think that that's going to solve all our problems. It will not. Only Jesus will solve our problems. Only Jesus will satisfy our soul. Contentment only comes in a relationship with him. But we also don't need to be a consumer that's waiting to find the right person in our dating life. No, we can work on ourselves to become a quality person, let God bring the right person at the right time that we're ready to invest in. Now, there's some blitzes in our culture that are making it difficult to succeed in marriage and family, and it's affecting the church a lot. It affects people outside the church even more because they have less resources of God's love, but it's affecting us. One of the blitzes is the preponderance of counterfeits to true love. Of course, there's the TV shows that show a bunch of silly stuff. There's the movies and the plot lines. There's pornography, counterfeiting sex. There's the hookup culture, where sex is just like a kind of a sport with no obligation or commitment to one another. College campuses almost make it normalized. There's cohabiting, living together and pretending you're married but having no commitments. And then, unfortunately, you've never built a solid trust in that relationship that gave away your sexual relationship with no commitment to one another. And then you get into real marriage or even late in the cohabiting relationship and you don't really know if the full trust is there. The research shows that that pathway of kicking the tires, test driving the product, does not lead to better marriage. It leads to higher divorce rates. Interesting. God's truth lines up with research and leads to our blessing. But we get fooled by a world that's counterfeiting us as to what true love is, what true happiness is, what wise relationships are. So just remember, there's a lot of counterfeits out there. Make sure you're diffusing them and talking about them around the dinner table with our kids so they don't get fooled when they go off to college by themselves. Second blitz is the disintegration of God's plan for family. Somehow our society has split up romance, marriage, sex, having kids, and parenting, all into separate boxes. And you can pick and choose them wherever you want. Sex is an a la carte item on the buffet line of life. And guess what? We're getting a lot of indigestion and problems from trying it outside of God's way. I like the analogy of fire in a fireplace. It is good. It is safe. It is warm. It's cozy. It brings a nice intimate glow to the room. But fire in the living room is danger, and it can burn the whole house down. Throw it anywhere in the house and it's danger, but put it in that safe place called marriage, the fireplace, and good things happen. If we're honoring God. So number one blitz was counterfeits to love. Number two is the disintegration of God's plan for the family. And number three, I think this is the biggest blitz, and it's a very subtle one. And I got a great letter from a young man named Jeremy. I asked him, he's 29 years old. I said, what does your generation think about the idea of marriage? And a lot of people in his generation aren't marrying because the advertisements for marriage have been so rotten. I'm not talking about the ones on TV. I'm talking about us. Those of us who've lived marriage really haven't done that well in some of their eyes. Listen to what Jeremy wrote. In my experience, the fear of divorce is very real in the minds of Generation Y. Many of us saw our parents, friends' parents, or close family members go through divorce, people we admire and trust, and we think if they couldn't make it, what makes me think I can? One of the major challenges for our generation is consumerism. We grew up in a country that's known incredible prosperity and freedom, and we've been inundated with advertisements since we were born. I was counting it up on the internet, and I saw between 250 and 500 advertisements that we see every day. Just running down the page of the websites that we're on, the billboards, TV, radio, and it's going up. It may be 500 to 1,000. Can you imagine how many advertisements a kid's seen by the time they're 18? We've been inundated with advertisements since we were born. We're the customers, and the customers are always right. We've been taught by society not to be satisfied with what we have. Not to be satisfied. We need to upgrade constantly or we become outdated and irrelevant. This is only an iPhone 4. How tragic. I better go get an iPhone 5. I won't know what to do. That's the mentality. Most of us have never had to learn how to be content. Society changes so fast that we don't worry about being content. In fact, if you get content with what you have and get too comfortable, you risk missing the next big thing and marginalizing yourself from your peers. The pressure to keep up and stay relevant is overwhelming. But then you move into marriage. It's a world where there are no easy upgrades, no quick fixes. If you have never learned how to be content, how to stay committed to something despite how it feels, it'll be that much harder to succeed in marriage. This is from a 29-year-old. Unless we make a blatant effort to view our spouse differently than we view everything else in society, we'll slip into the consumeristic, hypnotic trance without even knowing it. Just swinging the little ball in front of you, the consumeristic, hypnotic trance. The mindset of marriage is at odds with the mindset of consumerism. It's not about getting and taking, it's about giving and exchanging. It's not anchored in what you feel, it's anchored in what you believe and are committed to. It's not self-focused, it's self-sacrificing. Most of us would never admit to thinking like consumers, but it remains at the core of our culture. And we've let it spill into our marriages. Wow. A friend of mine has a sign on his bathroom mirror. It says, "Would I want to be married to me?" It's a daily reminder to think like an investor, not like a consumer. My turning point in my marriage, when I started to get over getting frustrated with our problems and kind of having a whining attitude about it, was when I realized that Romans 8:28 and 29 apply to marriage. 28 is the one that says, all things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to his purpose. And verse 29 says our purpose is to be conformed to the image of Jesus Christ. And when I started to realize that marriage is God's crucible to crush out my selfishness, to teach me to pray, to teach me to be more humble, to teach me to be more of an investor instead of a consumer, I started to have more perseverance and more hope to get through the little wrestling trials of marriage. That was a real turning point for me 15 years or so ago. Gary Thomas wrote a book called Sacred Marriage, and he has a classic line in it. He said, "What if God did not mean for marriage so much to make me happy as to make me holy?" Now, we're not setting up a dichotomy here where you can either choose happy or holy, and you can't have anything in between. Really, if you aim at happiness, you're going to want to be a consumer who tries to get everything to work out for you. And if you do that, you'll be sucking from relationships, pulling from people, setting your expectations too high of them, being disappointed in them, rather than getting your expectations and joy and hope settled by Jesus Christ. So if you try to get happy, you end up not being holy because you become selfish. And if you're not holy, you won't have a good marriage. Meanwhile, if you aim to be holy, which is just being conformed to the image of Jesus Christ, selfless, loving, respectful, persevering, forgiving, an investor rather than a consumer, that holy approach makes you better in relationships, and you get the best version. Other people get the best version of yourself, and they're able to respond with the best version of themselves, and you have a much better chance of being happy. Though you'll never be perfectly happy on earth, it'll only be in heaven that all of our happiness is completed in the joy of Christ. Although we've got an awesome transcending joy right now. As I mentioned, that I'm kind of ADD and I'm extroverted, kind of freewheeling, have fun, visionary, spontaneous person. My wife is an introverted, organized, disciplined, right is right, wrong is wrong. She stops at yellow lights like God Almighty is saying, do this. I'm like, dude, this is slowing up my life. I got to get through that yellow light. We're different. I'm not condoning that driving, don't worry. But we're so different, it's unbelievable. The only problem is that Stacy's a dominant leader. She's like a 99 out of 100 on this leadership scale, and I'm a 97. And it really bugs me because she beat me. Anyway, we're super different. And we're having this dialogue in the house one day, and it's coming across that we're really different. And Keegan is 5 years old. He's over at Wheaton College. I'm going to go visit him after this. And Keegan's 5 years old, and he says, Daddy, you guys are too different to be married. And I think, oh my gosh, this is a teachable moment. I better come up with something. So, okay, I got it. So I get down on my knee and I say, Keegan, the reason Mommy and Daddy are married is because we are so different. See, God takes two people, a man and a woman, that are very different. Their personalities are typically very different. And he puts them together to make a really strong team. You know the way wide receivers need quarterbacks, and quarterbacks need wide receivers, and linemen need running backs to follow them, and running backs definitely need linemen to block for them? That's what teamwork is, and Mommy and Daddy are like that. But you don't need to worry, because we have God to glue us together. I stopped for a second and thought, that was a great marriage speech. Gave myself a little male compliment, which is always the kiss of death. Your pride is always the kiss of death. And what happens next is 5-year-old Keegan's brain starts turning, and he looks at his dad and says, you know, Dad, with you guys, I think it's going to take crazy glue. From a 5-year-old. But I'm painting the picture that the ultimate team is not the winner of the Super Bowl. It's a husband and wife in a lifelong union called marriage. And that team blesses the kids that come into that family. And they give them the vision of men and women understanding and serving each other. And that sex is a good thing that comes into our lives at a certain age where we get interested in it. And then we have to learn to channel our interest to make friendship a higher priority than self-gratification. And then when we make a marriage commitment, God then gives us the power of intimacy and a sexual relationship to love each other, to bond to each other even more, and then to have the blessing of children. Again, I talked about the counterfeits that said, let's put that outside the marriage union and let it happen anywhere, and it ends up being painful. God's blueprints create the ultimate team. Ephesians 2:10, it's a passage about the church, but I think it applies to marriage too. It says this, it says, we are God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus to do the good works that he created ahead of time for us to do. Did you know the word in the Greek for workmanship is poema? It's Greek, it's poem, it's art, poetry, masterpiece. We are God's masterpiece. And guess what? It isn't an individual word, it's a plural word. So it is saying that the body of Christ, all of us believers together, are his workmanship. And I apply it to marriage, that Jeff alone, Stacy alone, is not God's workmanship. Jeff and Stacy together is his workmanship. We are his poem. We are his story. We are his team. And we are meant to write a story that blesses our kids and gives encouragement to other couples. And there's a lot of times, Jim, where other couples need to help us because we've had mentors through the years that have helped us through some tough patches. And to have that happen, guess what we had to do? Raise our hand, not literally, and tell people, we need some help. We're struggling. Do not pretend that your life is just coasting with ease when it comes to relationships. We're all so sensitive about what people think. But frankly, they respect you more when you tell them you have a weakness or a challenge. And you build a deeper friendship. And then you build the body of Christ support. And it's a team of many other married couples helping other married couples. And some married families reaching out to Rita in her singleness with her son and helping her son catch the vision. In fact, there may be a guy in this service right now. He's married, has a pretty good marriage. He's got a teenage son. And he's thinking, you know, I haven't done the best job of teaching my son what manhood is. I'd like to do more there. But I'm really concerned about his buddy who doesn't have a dad at home, isn't seeing marriage in their home. And I have an idea. How about if I use the stepping up family life curriculum that Dennis Rainey and Tony Dungy and Bill Bennett and Crawford Loritz and Stu Weber and Robert Lewis and all these great messengers put together to teach men what courageous manhood is. And how about if I go through that with my son and his buddy? All of a sudden, you're investing in your son, you're investing in yourself, and you're investing in a boy whose daddy isn't there to invest in him. It may bless the girl that that boy marries someday, because he'll be more of an investor with courage and Christ-likeness rather than selfishness and consumption. Ephesians 5 gives us God's picture of marriage, and he says that marriage is a picture of Christ in the church, and it's a mystery. And I call it the lighthouse. If marriage is doing well, it's a lighthouse to show others where the safe harbor is. But if marriage isn't doing well, guess what we're not advertising very well? Christianity, Jesus Christ. Why would you go to church if you don't see marriage different from Christians? This is our responsibility, to invest in our marriages and not take it for granted. I took Corey, my son, on a father-son fishing trip where I was the speaker at a retreat. And most of the kids are going to be like 10 to 16 years old, but Corey was only 4. And on the way, I realized, gosh, I'm going to talk some about peer pressure and sex and stuff a little bit, so I better make sure Corey's ready to handle it. So I explained to him on the ferry ride over to this island what sex is. He was 4 years old. I got a little too into the mechanics and plumbing of it. And we had a great time. We slept in bunk beds, we fished, we caught trout, and we came home, and I thought, Corey had a blast. But Stacy said, Corey, was it fun? Did you have a good time? He said, yeah, I had a great time, and I learned what sex is, and you and Daddy did it 4 times. And Stacy looked at me like, she didn't say it, you idiot, what are you doing? I mean, sometimes we're too late with our parenting things, and sometimes we're too early. And in this case, I was a little early. It's okay. Corey is happily married to a wonderful girl, and they're in good shape today. Somehow God covered for my poor timing and lack of discretion in that case. But I bring this up because we don't do a good enough job of giving our kids the accurate picture of the authentic, real thing in an age of counterfeits. What's a real relationship? What's selflessness and treating others well? And what is the idea of this sex that we talk about hush-hush in the church, but the world talks about all the time, and then we hope the kids figure it out? Mark Gungor is a pastor and a comedian, and he gets a lot of people's attention with this question. What do you think is the number one key to great sex? Obviously speaking to married people, and people are curious. He goes, exclusivity is the answer. Exclusivity. This is very important for us men because men are visual. We may say, I will not be involved with any other woman but my wife, but I love watching those R movies or those PG-13 movies. The standards keep dropping. I love watching that show. I joke around with the guys at work. I read this magazine that has these pictures. I've noticed the Sports Illustrated bikini issue. I'm not doing anything bad, and I look at these internet sites sometimes. Or women. I read these romance novels where men are so much different than my husband, and I keep thinking of how much it'd be nice to have him be like that. Guess what you're doing? You're being non-exclusive. You're dissipating your interest into other places, which weakens your satisfaction and commitment to the one that you're really committed to, and you end up getting a worse version of your marriage than you would because you're not exclusive. Exclusivity is the key to a great romantic and intimate marriage, including the sexual relationship. And that's why sex before marriage damages the future enjoyment and the likelihood of success in marriage, because you're not being exclusive as God gave us guidance for our good. The epicenter of marriage is love. Love is doing what's best for someone else, not what's best for you. In John, Jesus says, my command is this, love one another. And if you want to know what it looks like, he says, there's no greater love than to lay down your life for one another. And in Ephesians, it tells husbands, you should love your wife like yourself. You should lay down your life for her like Jesus did for the church. And then it says something difficult to women. It says, and men, we shouldn't listen to this because men shouldn't listen to the women part and women shouldn't listen to the men's part, or we start to become consumers, right? Expecting them to do it. But it says to women, just as a husband should unconditionally love you like Christ unconditionally loved us. Women are to unconditionally respect their husbands and give them their deepest need. Guess what? Little boys and little girls grow up to be big boys and big girls. And little boys are asking a question. Do I have what it takes? Do I measure up? Am I a man? And you can see it in our silly behavior. And then we get to be a big man, and we're still asking that question. It means that respect is our deepest need. Men need to be loved too, of course. It's both and. And little girls, they want to know, from the time they're little to medium to bigger to woman, am I cherished? Am I valued? Am I beautiful? Would someone sacrifice for me? And guess what? God wrote in Ephesians 5:33 a perfectly tailored version of how to treat a husband and wife when he said, husbands, love your wives as you love yourself. And wives, respect your husbands. Loving is the hardest thing for us to do. We can commit, but then we want to go work and we want to do this and this, but it's hard for us to deliver love in her love language. And God asks us to do the hardest thing. And respect is many times the hardest thing for a woman to do toward her husband. We're not always respectable, but in God's eyes, we're forgiven, we're sons of God, and you get a better man when you respect him than when you don't. And you get a better woman when you love her than when you don't. And God's instructions work. A consumer wills and does and takes what's best for themselves according to their selfish desires. But a lover, or let's substitute the word an investor wills and does and gives what is best for another according to the other person, not according to them. Love adds value, which is what an investor does. Here's a football analogy. They teach the quarterbacks in one room to throw footballs to the wide receivers within a 1-foot diameter of accuracy so they can catch the ball and keep running for first downs and touchdowns. In the other meeting room, they have the receivers, and they teach them, if you can touch it, you must catch it. Wherever the ball is, if you can touch it, you must catch it. What if they told the quarterbacks, hey, receivers are supposed to catch anything they can touch? And what if they told the quarterbacks, told the receivers, quarterbacks are supposed to throw it perfectly right in front of you, not behind you, not above you, not below you, not out in front, right here. If they told the other ones that, they would flip the philosophy from being an investor to a consumer, and the receivers be running across the middle, seeing some big guys about to hit them. The pass is back here a little bit behind him, and the receiver just says, he's supposed to throw it right here. I'm just going to knock that one down, wait for the next one. Would that help the team? No. And what if the quarterback said, these guys rushing me are big and scary. I'm not going to stand in here for a long time and throw a really perfect pass and then get hit in the face. I'm just going to throw it early and somewhere near the guy. After all, he's accountable. If he can touch it, he'll catch it. So quarterbacks would be just chucking the ball up and ducking. You see how it would ruin the team to convert them from investors to consumers. That's the essence of this message. Jesus calls us to be investors like he is. Investors in relationships, investors in others, investors in our marriages, investors in our kids. Some of us are in a tough season. If you're in a tough season in your relationship, tough season in life, tough season in your marriage, work through it. Do not hide from it. Accept it as a blitz that can drive you closer to God, closer to someone else who you can ask help for. And you'll discover more of his love, even if your human relationship isn't feeling very loving right now. The questions to ask are, have I really gone to God to be changed spiritually, or am I just trying to have my circumstances changed? Have I ensured exclusivity in my marriage? And have I, as a guy, gotten rid of all the other images, the imagination of other women, the pictures of other women, the way I watch TV shows? Have I gotten rid of all that other stuff so I can only focus on one person? And whatever it is that's keeping you distracted from your husband, are you getting all your satisfaction and joy out of your kids instead of prioritizing your husband and your marriage? Have I gotten exclusive toward my spouse? And then do you remember that one person can change your relationship and you don't need to wait for the other person? Just start changing yourself, because that's the only one we can change. And the way to change yourself is to run to Jesus, get in the Word, get in prayer, ask a pastor for help, go to a friend and be transparent and take a risk and tell them you're not perfect. And guess what? They'll say, geez, I'm not either. I can help you. Let's grow. It takes 5 positives to make up for 1 negative in our relationships with each other. Researchers John Gottman at the University of Washington found this out. 5 positive interactions to make up for 1 negative critical comment. Some researchers said it's 7 to 1. Isn't it interesting that that research aligns with a principle in the scripture found in Philippians 4:8, which my wife calls treasure hunting. Treasure hunting. Is there anything good in your son or your daughter, despite the C- on the report card? Focus on the good. Is there anything good in your husband or wife, despite the last argument you had or the thing he forgot to do? Focus on the good. You will get a better result. Philippians 4:8 says, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is of good repute, whatever is excellent or worthy of praise, dwell on these things. Talk about these things. Thank God for those things. Write those things down in your journal to remember, there are some good things about my husband. Write them down and remind yourself and thank God for them, and vice versa. So end the negativity. That's consumption. End the stonewalling silence that says, I don't want to deal with this. That's not choosing to invest in your spouse. They deserve a relationship from you. Treasure hunt. Focus on the good. And I'm going to wrap up just with a summation of teamwork here. Our marriage is a team. Husband and wife raising their kids as a team. But the other marriages in this church are a team for one another. And you guys in this church that are married are a team for the people who don't go to this church, who don't plan to come to a church, who really aren't interested, but they are interested in friendship and help and support because they'd love to have an answer to why their relationship is really struggling or what to do in helping their kids make it successfully through school. Your life, your marriage is a team for people outside of this church. And that's the vision the church speaks of, that we're building 2-way bridges to the unchurched. And I'd say your marriage and a little hospitality and popping in a DVD with some dessert served afterwards and saying, let's go through a marriage resource is a great way to invest in others and invest in yourself all at the same time. There's some great tools that Roger and Gloria Henn, friends of mine who work with Family Life for years, will be in the back by a table. And we'd love, if you give us your email, we will not do a fundraising thing, we'll do a resourcing thing. I'll send you an email with some more ideas about how to support your marriage and your family, your parenting, as well as how you can reach out and use the tools we create to bless others. And you don't have to be the preacher or the talker or the coach or the consultant. You just say, hey, we're fellow learners on this journey. Let's pop in this DVD and we'll dialogue about it. So I wrap up with this application. Number 1, become the best version of you that God has in mind. Don't focus on the other person and what they should do. Focus on yourself. A lot of us plug our power cord for satisfaction into people instead of into Jesus. And if we plug into Jesus, then his power comes through us, and his power and his love makes us able to love people when they're not lovable. So focus on becoming the best version of you. Get in the Word, start praying more, get accountable, and grow. Number 2, stop consumer relationships and become an investor. And number 3, team up with others. Don't pretend everything's okay. Share your difficulty. Others won't be shocked. They're more shocked when we never share we're in trouble, then we divorce and leave the church. Share your difficulty. Come alongside others. Make yourself transparent and be a team to make sure that the ultimate team is strengthened for God's glory. Can you come up and I'll close in prayer, Jim? I want to just pray for you guys. Thanks so much for letting me join you in your church. I feel like Family Life and I are on your team, and you're part of my team. We all want to be part of God's team. Father in heaven, thank you for this chance. If we're single or divorced or widowed, if we're married or remarried, every one of us are loved by you. And the situation we're in is one that you'd like to draw us closer to Jesus Christ, to conform our personality and our character to be more like you. And we can be a lighthouse for Christ. In fact, we're called to be a lighthouse for Christ. And I would pray that every marriage here would decide to be investors and to grow closer and to become a team that can bless their kids and bless the other couples around them. Give us your help. Through Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Jeff. Just one reminder out these doors. Thank you. As you leave out the doors to the left, Family Life does have resources out there, some for guys called Stepping Up. It's one of the sessions, summary of it. And then for marriages, they have a 6-week version. They gave you the complete first session on marriage from the study, The Art of Marriage, and it's all free out there for you guys today. Also remember, in the bulletin, we are doing a text survey. There's a note in there as far as what keeps you from listening to your friend or spouse well. Text the answers to the number listed in the bulletin. We're going to be sharing the results next week, so you can do that now or sometime before Friday. Let's take a moment, pray, and you're dismissed. Father, thank you for your goodness and that you're with us. Give us wisdom as we leave today to implement what Jeff has shared. Amen. You are dismissed.